Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking a medical mystery that honestly completely flipped my understanding of ancient medicine on its head. We're looking at a fascinating, almost unbelievable clash between ancient holistic wisdom and modern industrialization. It is a wild story about poison, meticulous chemistry, and some truly lost arts. So, let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this bizarre dosage paradox involving incredibly potent herbs, things like hisho and aconite. Right now, modern pharmacopoeia strictly caps these herbs at about 3 grams. Any more than that, and you are immediately in the danger zone. Yet historical records clearly show ancient physicians safely prescribing half a pound. 250 grams. Think about how crazy that is for a second. That's a massive amount of poison. So, were the ancients just totally reckless? Or are we missing a massive piece of the biological puzzle today?
To figure this out, we have to look at the fundamental clash in how these two eras actually view science. Modern science is, well, it's brilliantly reductionist. We isolate a plant, test a single chemical for its lethal dose, stamp it toxic, and that's the end of the story. But ancient holism, they didn't view a plant as a static chemical payload. They viewed it as raw material, a dynamic ingredient meant to be fundamentally transformed before it ever crossed a patient's lips. They were, quite literally, playing a completely different game of biological chess.
Section 1. Beyond chemical ingredients. To really solve our dosage mystery, we have to look through the eyes of an ancient doctor and understand what they were actually observing, without the luxury of modern microscopes.
Instead of isolating compounds in a lab, they cataloged how a plant's energy fundamentally altered the human body's internal ecosystem. They used these advanced diagnostic frameworks, things like the 4 natures, the 5 flavors, meridian targets, and energy direction. They weren't asking about chemical structures at all. They were observing biological physics. Like, when a patient consumes this, does it make them sweat? Does it sink like a rock into the digestive tract, or does it float up into the head to clear a fever?
What totally blew my mind when I first read about this is that nature, or Xing in traditional Chinese medicine, wasn't just a basic physical description. It was a literal vector of energy. Take a fragrant, light vine like honeysuckle, for example. Its intrinsic nature isn't just green plant. Its nature is to move upwards and outwards to clear heat from the body. They were rigorously mapping out exactly how natural materials interact with human physiology on a systemic, highly dynamic level.
Section 2. The art of processing, also known as Pa-ji. This brings us to the actual solution to our 250-gram paradox. And honestly, this is exactly where the real magic happens. This isn't just casually making a cup of tea. We're talking about grueling, weeks-long chemical engineering. This specific process, called the 9 steams and 9 sunnings, is historically used for that toxic herb hisho. Imagine soaking a raw root in black bean juice, steaming it over an intense fire for hours, sun-drying it to an absolute crisp, and then repeating that exact process 9 separate times over an entire month. Through raw time and elements, they were painstakingly breaking down liver-toxic compounds while fundamentally enhancing the herb's restorative properties.
The results of this ancient processing are absolutely staggering. By repeatedly boiling the highly lethal herb aconite, ancient pharmacists structurally dismantled the deadly double ester aconitine. They managed to drop its toxicity to 1/2000th of its raw state. 1/2000th! They essentially deleted the poison while keeping the cure perfectly intact. And that is exactly why ancient doctors could safely prescribe 250 massive, life-saving grams that our modern, unprocessed equivalent simply cannot match without, killing the patient.
Section 3. An ancient global view. Now, if you think this sounds like isolated Eastern mysticism, prepare for a major historical plot twist. Ancient European doctors were actually using the exact same underlying logic. While the East mapped the body using the 5 elements in yin and yang, the West was using the 4 elements in planetary astrology. We're talking about completely separate continents thousands of miles apart, yet they shared the exact same holistic vocabulary to describe how natural materials interacted with human biology and health. I absolutely love this alignment. Both civilizations saw light, fragrant vine, and inherently knew it had a cooling, upward energy. The East called it rising qi to clear heat. The West literally assigned it to the planet Venus. Spicy red plants that dispersed heat. In the East, they were hot. In the West, they were assigned to Mars. Cold, heavy minerals that sank or Saturn.
They used completely different cultural labels, but they were observing the exact same biological physics.
Both civilizations realized that nature and the human body share deep structural resonances that dictate how medicine functions. In the West, this was known as the doctrine of signatures, where the physical appearance of a plant hinted at its medicinal use, like a walnut being shaped like a human brain to treat brain ailments. The East had an identical philosophy called take image to compare kinds. It was this universal human recognition of the interconnectedness of biological forms, a really deep intuition that we've sadly largely lost today.
Section 4. The Modern Industrial Crisis. So, the crucial point here is what happens when modern capitalism tries to rush this delicate, time-intensive art.
The result is an absolute systemic collapse. Today, here is a frankly alarming statistic. Less than 10% of modern pharmacy students can independently perform even 20 of these traditional processing techniques. The sensory genius of the master apprentices, those experts who just knew a root was perfectly steamed by its unique smell, its texture, the subtle shift in its color, is practically extinct. It is vanishing right before our eyes.
Driven by the need for quick profit margins, modern companies are simply skipping those vital weeks of steaming. They rely on fast-grown, often contaminated herbs, and they just slap the ancient, trusted names right on the box. But by substituting weeks of careful, methodical pagis with rapid, cheap industrial extraction, they aren't just losing the medicine, they are actively reintroducing the poison back into the population.
Think about this stark, everyday contrast. If you buy a regular bottle of water at the grocery store, the label legally demands total transparency, down to the exact milligram of sodium. But if you buy a highly potent, potentially liver-toxic botanical herb online, absolutely nothing. We get zero data on how many times it was steamed, what its toxicity limits are, or if there's heavy pesticide residue. As modern consumers attempting to use ancient cures, we are flying completely blind.
Section 5. The Future of TCM. This total lack of transparency is tearing apart the trust between doctors and patients, leading to an urgent modern medical crisis.
In historical pharmacies, master apothecaries used to proudly display a golden wok and silver spatula. Let's slow down and really think about what that actually meant. That wasn't some tacky symbol of wealth. It was a profound promise. It represented the extreme care, the meticulous precision, and the total reverence required to transform a deadly plant into a healing medicine without harming the patient. By rushing the process, the modern industry is fundamentally abandoning our most ancient medical oath. First, do no harm.
I want to leave you with this final thought. Can we mandate and standardize these vital processes before this profound human wisdom is lost to the industrial assembly line forever? Modern science doesn't have to be the enemy of ancient holism. In fact, it can absolutely be the tool that saves and verifies it. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time as we continue to decode the fascinating, hidden systems shaping our world.